is not enough.
Mr. Chair. I call the honourable member Andrew Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A wise choice, Mr. Chair. The Taxation, Livestock Valuation, Assets, Expenditure and Remedial Matters Bill, and I was just very interested in the comments from the previous speaker, Dr. David Clark, because I actually thought at one stage he'd read some of the notes that I had for my speech, because he made some excellent points. But the first point, I think, which we all have to be reminded of, and which most New Zealanders do remember, is the fact that 2 years ago, this government gave something like close to $2 billion in tax cuts to the wealthiest of New Zealanders at the expense of the rest of New Zealand. And as a result of giving those tax deductions to the likes of the Prime Minister, who got another $1,000 a week, the Prime Minister who got another $1,000 a week in his pay packet, to the likes of Paul Reynolds, the Chief Executive of Telecom, who got another $5,000 a week rebate on his tax. $5,000 a week, can you believe it? And to the likes of many other National parties supporting, high rollers who got a lot of money back. As a result of that, Mr. Speaker or Mr. Chair, we end up with the Honourable Peter Dunn, Minister of Revenue at the time, who's now is the very much Dunn Minister rather than the Minister Dunn. He's now the Dunn Minister. But the Dunn Minister brought forward this bill, 167 pages, to tinker around with the tax, to basically find the rats and mice, to find the little nickel and dimes, to do what they could, to try and claw back some money to help offset the couple of $1 billion that they gave to the likes of John Key and Paul Reynolds. We were very sceptical about this legislation in the first place, Mr. Chair, because we could see that it was very much just tinkering around the edges. However, we have come around to the viewpoint that we will support it, in that it does state that this is in order to improve the fairness of existing tax law and regulations, to protect the tax base and minimise the burden on businesses. Now, these are very much in line with principles that New Zealand First have, to support streamlining the tax system, to support the reduction in cost to business, to help the New Zealand economy, to help grow the New Zealand economy, and to help make this make our people basically a more prosperous people and nation as a result. And Mr. Speaker, we do note that there are some areas in this bill that are worthy of note, and they are that there have been some changes to the GST laws which remove the inequitable situation of non-residents versus resident businesses. That's fair enough. There's also been some changes to the livestock valuation rules around the whole livestock valuation area. It also provides, and we think this is an important aspect in this bill, that it, speaking of livestock, really? But it also provides tax deductibility for expenditure on trees and plantings for erosion, shelter and water protection purposes. And we think that's a good thing, because with the increasingly erratic climate that we are suffering, and with what we see as recently as this last week with storm damage in different parts of New Zealand, it is increasingly important that we do have increased planting of trees and other such planting to reduce erosion, to provide more shelter and to help with water protection of our important waterways around New Zealand. Similarly, this bill has a part in it which provides a donee status to 3 charity organisations who operate internationally, and again we feel that is fair, and that recognises those particular 3 organisations to treat them in a fairer manner. It also eliminates tax treatment mismatches to certain foreign currency hedges. Again, it helps our currency markets to perhaps operate in a fairer manner. It does, in the end, withdraw what was going to be a silly tax, the car park tax on Auckland CBD and Wellington CBD, and again we're pleased that that was withdrawn from this bill, because that would have been a complete nonsense. And we've heard from so many people where they said literally you could be across the street from your biggest major competitor. And on one side of the street you'd be paying for your staff to be parking, and on the other side of the street your major competitor could be getting off scot-free. What a total nonsense, and how the Minister and how this government allowed that sort of thing to get into this legislation is beyond us. Mr Speaker, Mr Chair.
The Honourable Member, Andrew Williams.
Thank you. Another wise decision, Mr Chair. Another wise decision. Mr Chair, we also,
It's good.
remind New Zealand that in terms of the tinkering around the edges, this government does have to face up to the facts that all New Zealanders need a fair go when it comes to tax. And what we are seeing increasingly is that the government is getting behind and doing backroom deals with those who can take advantage of situations and who can do very well out of the system, while others, the general everyday good, hard, solid Kiwi worker is not being treated in the same manner, and it's not right. And we certainly hope in this House that every politician would be aiming to get a fair tax system for everyone. Aspects of this bill go some way to address that, but there's still a long way to go, and there is still a lot to be done to streamline our tax system, to make it simpler, to make it fairer, to reduce taxes in this country, to make this economy more affordable and more competitive, to put us on a stronger level pegging with many other economies who are moving forward at a much greater rate with lower company taxes, lower taxes for the likes of the export sector, where again New Zealand First is very strong on the fact that we're not doing enough to support our export sector. If we don't make more money offshore and we don't bring more overseas funds into this country, we as a nation will suffer. And we are also going after silly areas and the IRD is going after some silly areas in taxation instead of looking at the much bigger picture of how do you reform the taxation system for the benefit of all. Mr Chair, just in closing, we hear that the IRD is about to spend $1.5 billion on a new computer system to oversee its revenue and its tax collection. That is a vast amount of money by anyone's standard, by any country standard, to spend $1.5 billion on a new computer system. One would hope that if New Zealand is spending that sort of money, that we would get a lot hand in hand with that new computer system, a lot more of a streamlined system which would make this country really tick over a lot faster. We would hope we're not going to get another Nova Pay, another INSIS and another debacle, and we'll look back in years to come on the IRD. So in terms of having some disastrous Titanic of a computer system strung around our neck. So, Mr Speaker, New Zealand First will be supporting this bill, but we do so with some reservations.
I call the Honourable Damien O'Connor.